Good morning. I'm Scott Forcino from Real Brokerage. I founded PlugIntro for the sole purpose of granting exposure to a client base and gaining new introductions and providing others the chance to be heard. I'm with me today, Jason Ramirez from TD Bank, based in Suffolk County. And he today, as of it's May 2023, has so much information about the trends and the developments working with clients and the lending banking market. So we're really proud to have Jason with us today. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me once again. Appreciate it.
Sure. Well, this is your show. It's branded to you and your colleagues. I know you just made a move. Where'd you go?
So now I'm currently with TD Bank. I'm no longer with Citizens. I started TD Bank this week, as a matter of fact. So I'm in the ramp up process. So yeah, that's pretty exciting to say the very least. But
what do you think that you? What greater programs, or what do you have now that you didn't have before?
It's they do have a great construction program. It's the best one in the business, as a matter of fact, and it's a niche product that I started getting into, and I was really enjoying it. And TD has the number one construction product on the market, and they have a great medical professional program, which is untouched by anybody else in the market. Those two specific products, they really dominate the market, and a much bigger bank.
Doctors and lawyers have some kind of special financing?
No, just doctors.
Oh, I thought
medical professional. No, it's a medical professional program. That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, so lawyers are out on their own too, and no one cares. All right,
pretty much, you're out on your own. Yes.
So, what do you have for doctors, and why doctors?
It's just a way they underwrite the file. They allow for max financing to be done with very little reserves. With the with the indication that the doctor will be making money going forward. It's really geared towards new doctors that are just entering the housing market and that are new to the business to the medical field rather. So
I got it. So
yeah. So the underwriting there, it's a little more flexible because of the projection of where they're going to be when they start actually making money.
So that means, okay, so there's a lot of trust in the profession, like we all have for the very most part, right? So they believe it's going to be only better from getting out of medical school till they're 35 years old.
Yes, that is correct.
That makes sense. I got to think that doctors are the most bankable people, right? Or one of the least risk.
I mean, in terms of employment, yeah, you're not getting many layoffs there. It's healthcare, so healthcare is, it's recession proof, right? So.
Right. People are going to keep getting sick.
People are always going to get sick and have a need. So yeah, it's a recession-proof business, and it's one that obviously, the income projection is always up. That's the idea. It's always up. So.
Got it. That's so. Let me ask you this: what about? I'm hearing about some new low down payments or even zero down payment for a conventional. What's going on with the conventional and the FHA lending today?
There's a lot of low to moderate income type products that are entering the market to try to spurt, activity, and you have low down payments as little as 3%, even less than FHA, with big closing cost credits. You just have to fit in. It has to fit in a certain. It goes by zip code, the demographics, and there are income restrictions on those products, but that's the big push, especially this year and going into next year. Yeah. So I mean that's obviously the big push. A lot of these banks are going in that direction. But they do have income restrictions, so it doesn't really qualify for everybody, or fit the bill for everybody. But great products, man. They give you, they can give you $5,000 to $10,000 in closing cost credit in some instances. So it's pretty good stuff.
I understand there's a pretty high debt to income too.
Yeah. So they'll certain products can go 45 to even 50 in certain regards. So when you can go to 50 debt, DTI, that's pretty high. That's basically 50% of your gross income going towards your mortgage, which is, relatively unheard of, especially after 2008.
Yeah, well, that's I guess that, I mean, do you think that'll be a good thing or a bad thing?
As long as they, the customers are properly qualified, it should be a good thing. It won't be like 2008. You hear a lot of rumblings about that. It kind of it's a little mind-boggling. It's not the same market. There won't be a collapse. The foreclosure rates won't be as high because the customers or the buyers now, they're a lot more qualified than they used to be, and they're being vetted more. So for the most part, it should minimize. There's always risk, but the risk should be not as much as it was in 2008.
Interesting. Yeah, I know that's really there is a real interest in spurring the economy and getting people back,
Hmm.
especially with these high prices. What about any
Yep.
creative financing? I'm hearing about non-QM, and what is QM?
QM's qualified mortgage, so it follows a basic government guideline. Um, without getting too complicated, you need to fit a certain debt to income ratio, certain credit score requirement, certain reserve requirement. So non-QM just kind of works around that. It's more specific to the lender and their appetite for the loan. So that's the creative aspect of non-QM, and it's coming back slowly. It's being dripped back. It's just not, the faucet's not open on that quite yet, but it's definitely coming back. Bank statement loans where they'll qualify customers just on bank statements, deposits, stuff like that. That stuff's coming back, but that's very nichey and very specific to certain mortgage bankers. At this juncture, I don't, you don't have many of the big lenders diving in that pool as of yet.
Hmm. And how do you let realtors know about that? I mean, you're the pro, but the people who are looking for the homes, they may be looking at Wells Fargo or Citibank and these big box stores without any idea. And the realtors do their job. They may not have an idea of what are the possibilities. What's your approach to reaching them and giving them these opportunities?
Well, I don't really push non-QM too much because it's not in my basket, and non-QM is very specific to lenders, so I don't know anybody else's policies and guidelines. It's really not something, it's hard enough trying to keep involved with my own policy and guidelines where
Hmm.
I am. So it's very nichey. So certain, you'll have some obscure bank somewhere regionally that has an appetite for that, and they do it, and they have their own set of guidelines. So
Interesting.
that's just something that, realtors in general, if they're looking if their customers need that, that's something they're going to have to do their homework on, to find that. As far as me where I am, it's not in my basket, and because I don't, I'm not trying to learn everybody else's
Hmm.
products and guidelines, niche guidelines. It's not something I can really refer, so to speak.
Are we still dealing with, or is it a trend continuing with buy downs and who pays? And is that it seemed like that was a short window. Is that still happening? I mean, to the extent it was.
I'm on the, I was on the record from the last conversation we had. Basically, it's no different than it ever was. It's just something else to talk about to spur interest. That was really it. If people want to buy down the rate, just pay points, it's tax deductible, all that good stuff. Just keep it simple. Especially in a competitive market, you don't want to go back to the seller and say, hey, if you contribute towards my closing costs, let's get people don't want to hear. They don't want that. They want in, they want out. There's a lack of inventory and a million buyers. So millions of buyers. So I believe keep it simple. You know,
Yep.
um, there is an appetite for housing out there. There just isn't enough housing to provide.
Right.
You know what
I
I
was
mean? So,
I was reading that the reason why we have this problem is not COVID. It's not when I say the problem, the housing shortage, the inventory is not any kind of rapid acceleration or a value. It was simply that from 2010 on, after the 0809 problem, say the least. There has been this from 2010 on. There has been, comparatively speaking to all the other decades, no building of new construction. It may look when you're driving around like they're building a lot, but statistically, the USA has built fewer homes from 2010 on, really till 2021, 2022 are the numbers, than any other decade. So you have not had entry. So there's a false scarcity just because the supply didn't even come close to meet the demand. And that's
Right.
really no one's talking about it. I haven't heard that. I did my research and learned that this problem can probably never stop because there's going, as the population grows, we're already at a deficit that cannot be made up. So property values are going to be high. It's more, I think, going to be the haves and the have-nots forever.
Yeah. So they, past after 2010, there was new construction being done, just not as robust, but it was being done. I went on record and said, a while ago, the country's 5 million homes short of where they need to be to meet the supply. Okay, so the lack of building. Well, they've been building. It's just not as robust as it once was, and now it got even worse after 2022. 21, 22, because inflation. The cost of goods went through the roof. So there's been a lot of incomplete constructions being done. So yeah, that in itself is a problem. So if you have somebody, that wants to relocate, let's say, leave Long Island, where I am, and relocate, where are they going? They have a 3% rate. Where they're gonna take a 6% somewhere else on Long Island and have a big fat mortgage. For what reason? They can't. Normally that client base would relocate maybe down south to the Carolinas, to parts of Florida, and there's just the lack of inventory. They're just not moving. They're not going anywhere. That's why housing prices have remained stable and strong and are continuing to go higher. And you're gonna, the problem, that nobody's really talking about is that you have this millennial population coming in. This is like the largest population since the baby boomers to come on in to purchase, and there's just not enough inventory, for them to purchase. That's why the rental market is ridiculously through the roof. So yeah, that's a problem that is not being focused on enough.
I don't think there is a solution to that. There's more and more coming, and you're dealing with low rates. There's a disincentive to move. Really, we're working on, sadly enough, death. We're working on the boomers dying and my generation coming in and maybe inheriting that wealth. And that's to me, only way that property is going to enter, and that's going to happen every day.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate / fortunate. Like if you're a homeowner, you're in good shape because your house is very secure in value, which is good. Nothing wrong there, right? But the problem is you can't get can't get any new home buyers, and the American dream is kind of at a stalemate because there's no properties, no inventory. You see it all the time. I have millions of buyers, not millions, I just have so many buyers that I talk to, and they lose out. They make an offer, this house, that house, and they're not getting any traction. A lot of them are losing just the cash alone. The cash buyers out there are through the roof also.
Right.
So that's another situation.
As you mentioned, former resort places like the Carolinas or Florida or even southern states throughout, those are now being bought as primary residences. I understand they're building new schools because people are taking their money from the metro area, the island, Southern Connecticut, Westchester, North Jersey, and moving somewhere based on the taxes being better and the climate being better. And sometimes your family and friends have actually relocated. So it's kind of your generational thing that, as you know, people were living in the city and then they moved to the suburbs, and then there's a new phrase called the exurbs. where places are in between rural and suburb and developing.
Yeah, you're gonna, there's a lot of that, a lot of these rebranding and renaming of future projects, regentrification of certain areas, and you're getting a lot of that new, obviously the regentrification, Manhattan's the poster child of that going into Brooklyn. You couldn't touch properties there. First of all, you didn't want to touch properties there, 20 years ago. And now you can't even touch properties there if you want to, because there's just so much money, and or nobody's selling. So it's just it's a weird time in the real estate market. But like anything, it'll change. Activity will come back in terms of building new homes and stuff like that. Just got to get through this period.
Yeah, I know that you're big on education of your colleagues and referral partners. I am too. That's really the reason why we created PlugIntro, is to get this type of fireside chat, which connects professionals with referrals and potential clients, prospects, so they learn more about the industry, and you position yourself as an authority and a leader and an expert in your field. What's going on with developing relations? I mean, you personally, what do you see happening with networking or educational sessions and seminars or conferences? What, besides what you do, what do you say? What are the trends?
Well, I think from what I see, most people are starting to realize that knowledge is key. The more info the better the more info you have, the more versed you can be, and you can touch up on a lot more topics, and obviously touch more, get the word out to more people. And when you can speak intelligently about the entire industry as opposed to just one little segment of it, then that puts you at an advantage, because not a lot of people are doing that. Well, they're starting to do it now, which I find, which is great.
Right.
So education, I was big. Knowledge is power. Educating customers is power. It's powerful. Because they'll always remember. That if you can explain to them how, for example, how closing costs work, why the closing costs are the way they are. If you can explain to them, how the transactions work, it puts a little bit less pressure on you as an individual. Being a loan officer, we usually take blame for everything, every part of the transaction. Oh, the appraisal came in short, it's the loan officer's fault. Something went wrong with the property, inspection, termite damage, it's the loan officer's fault. It's always the loan officer's fault. But now it just takes a little bit more pressure off of us as sales professionals, because customers are a lot more knowledgeable on how stuff works. If a bank is not accepting something, they understand now why a bank's not accepting something. It's once upon a time it would be, oh, my friend purchased the house the other day and he didn't have that problem. Well, no two situations are created equal. There's always twists and turns to everybody's credit profiles. So there's no, not everybody's the same. Unfortunately, they don't look at it that way. So it's just it's the more knowledge you have, and the better it'll be. You'll just have more education out there. The transactions will be cleaner. That's my opinion.
No, I so strongly believe in education. There are some problems in that, however, and that is the frequency, and that is the source. So if you're attending events and sessions and you're sharing information and you're giving seminars to either your clients or prospects or referral partners, you can't do it every day, and you are limited by time and space, who can attend and how can you reach them. Another problem I have is the source. A lot of real estate education is done by the individual going to a source, which I read articles that are way off the mark, even authoritative pieces that are way off the mark. I believe much more strongly in the professionals themselves, as you are, creating, and I don't say content because we're not in the entertainment business, but really demonstrating authority and then directly delivering it to an intended audience. I think it's a weak idea to let people just rummage and forage for themselves for some scraps that someone who has no skin in the game is writing, pontificating from 19 states away, doesn't know your local market. I think it's far more beneficial to the people in the market who have a financial incentive to get in front of people who can hire or refer them to push that information. There's far too little of that. I think that
Right.
we really not even scratched the surface of this type of digital dissemination where a professional is willing to really share their knowledge base with others for the purpose of benefiting consumers, also for the purpose of really distinguishing themselves from others. That's what's done. That's what PlugIntro was designed to do. I got really annoyed when clients were saying, well, isn't it this way? I said, wait, why? Where did you get that? I mean, let me give you one little quick anecdote. I'm sitting in this one market here, and these really top level agents in a mastermind said, listen, we have people talking to us in our little tiny enclave here about the news. I mean, that's Oklahoma. Over here, we're getting cash buyers from New York. Here are trends. This is not subject to what a writer and news wire writer. This is what we're doing here, street to street, neighborhood to neighborhood. A new restaurant went up. This happened at the school. So that's really, that really makes me crazy where professionals ignore the opportunity to directly deliver their message, their professional expression to the people they should.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's always been tricky. Like, where are you getting your info from? Who's delivering that info? And who's there listening to the info? The recipients of this information, right? So I don't think there's a clear-cut answer to that, right? So I think as a recipient, you check out different sources and you try to determine what's what, who makes the most sense, who could apply to you. A lot of people. It's almost like diets, right? So many different diets out there, right? There's the Miami Beach diet, gluten-free diet, carnivore diet, all sorts of diets, right? They all work, right, for the most part, but not everyone works for you. So it's more of a trial and error. So as somebody in our line of work, going from seminar to seminar, you just have to find what works for you, or who you relate to the most, and could help you grow your business. Now, as the individual delivering the information, that's another situation altogether. Who is this individual? What are their credentials? How long have they been in the industry? That's a tough one. Because everybody's self-proclaimed these days. You go on Instagram, there are dozens of people that have been in mortgages 6-7 years that have all this flash and stuff on their post and delivering a basic message partially incorrectly. So
right. You brought up two things that really are my focus. Instagram is social media, and you mentioned recipients. So instead of having the world search for content, whether it's Taylor Swift or the NBA playoffs, anything that's of interest to them, but they're not really married to, such as home buying when you are buying a place, or selling when you're in that arena. I believe strongly in local business media, which you and I are engaging right now. And to me, the only recipients are those people that the authority invites. You want to create an intended audience. Who's important to you. The realtors in Long Island that you would like to meet, and the realtors in Long Island that you have served and gone to war with. The clients that are impressed with you and trust you. So I say, why utilize this unless it's self-aggrandizing? And I know it is for these recent professionals who got in the field, did well, have nice suits, and are showing people. But the fact is, they're subject to who finds them. They're subject to recipients that may be tire kickers. Why? And I tell you what, I call it micro networking, where I think a professional who has authority like yourself, their best bet is to create that intended audience. It could be much smaller. It could be 70 people versus 500 or 5,000 followers. Wouldn't you, here's my question, I ask agents almost every day. Wouldn't you be open to a coffee shop 5 days a week that I close the door and you speak to all the homeowners and buyers in your community? Wouldn't you be open to a school auditorium? I was in one this morning of about 300, 400 people. Wouldn't you be open to Costco? We could lock the door. You're the only lender or realtor there. So this audience is possible. Why put up a banner in Costco and hope someone sees it when you could create the audience contained in Costco or the coffee shop? You know what I mean? Why cede control to the wind of social media and maybe some acorn will fall on their lap? It's even tough for you because you have no idea who you're speaking to. People are demanding rates and didn't have jobs. Didn't that happen to you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could vet somebody out in a 2-minute conversation. It's not that difficult. At the end of the day, there's just so many questions they could ask. It's mortgages. It's not brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
The way this process works is, there's nothing special about it. In regards to the audience, yeah, I that's something that would be great, but people do it. They want to just mass market. They want to drop as many lines out there as possible, and then whatever bites, then they deal with it,
And that's weak, and to me, that's really, that's a great point. I mean, I define
it's lazy. It's lazy. I think it's lazy.
I'll tell you what, here's interesting. It may not be lazy. They may be diligent. The problem is you could be diligent looking for gold in a silver mine. So it may not be lazy. The fact is, and I'll knock the real estate industry right here. To a lot of lenders and realtors, it's all they know. I mean, before Facebook, you were knocking on doors, and I know you still are, and you're reaching important people for relationships. But the approach of social media is really ABC. It's that you are hoping to be found by strangers. You just said it. Instagram. Someone doesn't know you, never worked with you. It's no one, even no one who you know is going to think that your flash is going to make them sign a loan application. It's crazy. It's lazy, but it's really, sadly enough, between the banks not training and the real estate brokers not training them, it's all they got. It's a hope and a prayer. It's almost a Hail Mary.
Yeah, hope is not a very good strategy, and hope is, the primary strategy for a lot of people.
It's
So,
funny, right?
yeah, it is. But I pride myself for years in just speaking to, more of a circle of influence. You speak to the right people, and they get the word out for you. They assist in getting the word out for you. It's worked countless times throughout my career. You did a loan for such and such, and you had a great experience. Can we talk? Yes, sure. Boom. And it opens up that way. And the more success you have in that regard, you have people touting you, but it's more like you have fans as opposed to just
True fans.
yeah. When you have fans, you have it. You got it, because people, they're just like, you got to speak to this guy. Like I've heard that before, and it's a feel good situation. It really is when they're like, they said, I got to speak to you. I'm like, I like that. That's pretty cool.
Well,
That means I made an impact.
Well, you've also, right, that impact means you've earned it, but not everyone did. I mean, using an opportunity where you give other than ask, such as a PlugIntro situation, where someone who, for a new realtor, can easily bring someone aboard, provide that authority and demonstrate that expertise, and also give others a chance to be heard and gain and promote themselves instead of just being a broadcast or a billboard. That's the way to catch you. If I was new and I was trying to catch you or some top agent, I would get into a place where I provide real insight and real perspective and a real benefit to others so that I can compete with you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the platform is great. The PlugIntro platform is great. I like where it's going. And I've definitely tried to add, my share of members.
Sure. I mean, it's for their benefit, and I get kind of annoyed sometimes. I need to stay away from social media because I wonder when people will be exhausted, The National Association of Realtors gave a report in 2023 that 2021 and 2022, under 1% of buyers, 400,000 buyers, just they polled or surveyed, so they found their real estate agent under 1%. And I wonder what that means for lenders. I mean, I think that it could be less because lenders work so much from referral base. So who's really doing some online social media posts and then filling out a loan app? I don't think that happens.
No, that, I mean, it does, but it's not the norm. The norm is really referral based, word of mouth based. That's truly the norm, because when you purchase a home, it's such a big transaction. It's the largest transaction you're ever going to do in your life. Or at that, you buy a 5, 6, 7, 800,000 $1 million house. You're not doing too many transactions that big in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one, maybe two if you move, right? So, you don't want to just go online and fill out a random app and have some random person call you saying, "Hey,
Right.
I received your app." Like, you're not switching cable or cell
Not switching
phones or anything
cable.
like
Right.
that.
I had just had
You know,
a silly experience where I went in, got an oil change for my car, saw a beautiful truck, and I started talking about it. It was late in the day. I couldn't stay there. I got a phone call. I was intensely discussing with the sales guy. I get another phone call or a text from another person, completely clueless. Didn't know what I looked at, didn't know anything about our conversation, didn't know when I came. And I called the guy, the first guy. I said, "Is that what you got?" I said, "We talk and some clown reaches me. That's what you think is going to work with me, a discerning buyer. You couldn't reach me? Oh, that's how we work." I said, "That's how you work? Well, that's how you work to your detriment. I definitely won't do any work. I won't buy anything here." But that's what we're talking about. These systems are set up to fail. And even relying on referrals is dangerous because that's a purely passive action steps. There's no, it needs to be something where you're always reaching someone that can benefit from you.
well, no, when to your experience with them saying that's how we do it, they just don't have the confidence or knowledge to have a conversation with somebody in detail about what's going on. So it's almost like if if you go to 50 people, there was a joke one time when we were younger. I'll ask 10 girls at a bar if they want a drink. One will say yes. Statistically, one will say yes, and 9 will tell me to drop dead. It's the same thing. If they drop 50 lines out there and they have 30 conversations, statistically they'll nab 5 or 6 of them. Where the
Yeah.
other the other people are going to
It
ask
doesn't build
detailed
goodwill.
questions. So
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
think
build
it's
good.
more of a confidence and knowledge thing.
Yes, I was really, you want to be important. I mean, like you say, when you buy the place, it's not often. You need to be surrounded by professionals. You need to be people that care, whether you can reach that
Yeah.
lender late on a Friday or early on a Sunday. I mean, I've had people reach me. Would you believe that someone reached me? No lie, Christmas night. And I just said,
Yeah.
man, I mean, you know what? I couldn't deal. It was really an amazing time with having young kids and family. And I just kind of just looked at it, I go, wow. I mean, I didn't take it as an offense. I just thought, what's going on in their life that this is on their mind? What the Christmas night? Or, I mean, even 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, they do that. You've had that how many times?
Oh, I get reached at all sorts of obscure hours. I get called at you know 9:30, 10 o'clock. Hey, you got some time to chat? I guess. I
Yeah, well,
guess.
you're in the people business. You're a
Why not?
people.
But, I mean, look, if it's a business oriented conversation, I can address if you just want to chat, if you just want to shoot the shit, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, but if if usually the chats of the questions are fairly quick, and I can address it very quickly. And most of the time, I don't mind taking a call late, because this is one less thing I have to do in the morning, so I don't mind. If I could
Sure.
check off a bunch of items off my
Um,
list for the morning, I'm all in on that.
right. And because it's all about perception too. The public does not understand that you might do something of a highly nuanced nature, or the realtors do that. So they think, I get a house with anyone, get a loan with anyone. Therefore, you're equal. How do you stand out and distinguish yourself? By the connection you make with the other person. So yes, 9:30 calls welcome. We're here for you. Because if you really think about it, someone's working a 6-7, they have a bite. The first time they really may talk to their husband or wife might be in the 8:30, kids go to bed 9-ish. The first moment they breathe before they turn on, some Netflix might be that moment. Hey, talk to Jason. Oh yeah, I'll call him now. I mean, that could be it.
Like in sports, specifically football, the NFL, availability is one of the best traits you can have. So I was
Yeah,
never big on 9 to 5. I'll take your call at 6 in the morning. If I'm awake, I'll take your call, because I'll just get it out
definitely.
of the way. If it's
I
9, 10
remember.
o'clock at night, I'll take your call, because I'll just get it out of the way. I don't have a problem in
Did you
doing
ever
that.
hear? Did you ever hear of a blue chip mortgage in in Uniondale by the Coliseum? You ever hear that company years and years ago?
No.
Well, they got me started. They asked me if I wanted to handle closing. They didn't know what a closing meant. So as a lawyer, I had a early flip phone, and the guy who's still a friend said to me, that will be the distinguishing factor. I said, what? He goes, that thing in your hand. You answer it, you'll be better than most lawyers out there. I said, yeah, I don't know much. He goes, you don't have to know much. All the lawyers know everything. Don't worry. Just answer the phone and make calls. That thing that weighs half a pound will be all the difference. And he was totally right.
Availability. It's
Yeah.
key. It's the most key thing to be. Then know what you're talking about, of course. If you're available, but you couldn't really help me, then what's the point at the end of the day, right? So,
Well, because the people are having a problem, they're having some pain. They want to be safe. They want to feel secure. So they need that before they lay their head down. Okay, Jason's on it. Honey, you happy? He's on it. We're good. Okay, we're scheduled close. You got everything in, all the paperwork? Yes. Now they can have peace.
Yep.
So if you're okay, Jason, I think I really appreciate our opportunity today. Like I said, we're going to get this to as many realtors and contacts, clients, and colleagues as we can. So you invite people that you'd love to hear more about your message and your professional authority. And we do a lot of the relationship and the introductions. So let's maintain our dialogue. This is branded to you and your group, and we're looking forward to making an impact to people that surround yourself.
Definitely appreciate that. Yep.
All right.
Much pleasure
So,
speaking with you.
yep, let's do more. I know you'll be ready for the next time with more important information.
You got it.